Okay, that's fine.
I'll let you know how to adjust.
So your difference in about 16 or so
Yeah, maybe 20
seconds.
I'll
Okay.
keep track.
All right.
People are saying, what are they babbling about here?
Oh, we're
It's
babbling because it's part of the
incremental daylight savings time. We've gone by a street level here, so
incremental daylight savings time. Oh, give or take 3 minutes or
what county
10
are you
seconds
in? What
or
county are you in?
yeah.
Daylight savings. Don't get Robert started.
Don't even think about getting me started. No,
All
you
right.
don't want to do that.
I'm starting fresh here. Good morning, Robert.
Good
Strong.
morning, Richard Pollock.
Nice to see you.
Hey,
there.
it is wonderful to see you.
beautiful.
I'm looking out the window. We have blue sky with little
skies,
light,
da, da,
furry
da.
cloud-looking things going on.
Nothing but blue
sky.
skies.
Do-do-do-do.
All right, that'll do.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, we have got so much stuff on for Radio Science News today, Robert. I just almost can't believe it.
I know. Hey, you're listening to Radio Science News. This is episode number 778 in a series. This is March 27th, 2021. If you're into prime numbers, you know that anything that ends in an 8 is not a prime number. So the factors are 2 and 389. 389 is not one of my favorite primes, but
That's
it does
interesting.
come up every now and then, for instance, today. But
I've been watching for it. I've been anticipating.
yeah, sort of.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah, okay. So, what we're going to do, as we do every week, if you've been listening to one or more of the last 777 in the series, what we do, we get you to smartcenter.org. So if you log in, and if you're driving, please put your car into non-manual mode. Yes, do not
Pull
be
over.
doing, yes. Let the car drive itself while you're doing this. So go to www.smartcenter.org, smartcenter.org. That takes you to my favorite webpage on the internet, all things Smart Center. And then if you find the little trifecta rainbows there, the little triplicate
Triplicate
shirts,
T-shirts.
triplicate T-shirts.
Triplicate T's.
Just above that is Radio Science News. I'm going to click on that, and ooh, wow. My computer is acting
Lightning-
very nice this morning. It
lightning
just
fast.
popped right up. I don't know what's going on. And that takes you to the launch pad of science. And there's all kinds of really cool things about the live broadcast, streaming, and the various partners that we have and so forth. So if you're interested, you look through all that. But on the phase down just a little bit, and you'll find Saturday, March 27th, 2021. And we've got Dr. Bright. We've talked about Dr. Bright before.
Is that a British show? No, that's
Dr.
Bright. Doctor who? Dr. Bright.
Dr. Bright.
Now I've got Redfield up here.
Redfield.
Now this is a story. This is one that popped up again. I'm a little irritated by this story, but I kept thinking. Remember, was it Dr. Frankenstein? Who had Renfield? Who was? Oh, that was Count Dracula's.
That was Count, I think.
Renfield.
Yes.
The one that ate all the
Renfield,
flies.
yes.
I feel kind of the same way about Dr. Redfield, but
Okay.
I don't want to be.
That has me interested.
Well, then there's
the COVID
the
team.
COVID team, and you know, it's interesting that there's a. And we're going to briefly look at these because
Okay.
there's so many other stuff that I'll let people. The idea of Dr. Bright, Redfield, the COVID team. This is the past COVID team. They're getting a big interview on CNN coming up.
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, and the first thing that's come out of it is what I'm going to say are some statements by Dr. Redfield that I find a little anyway.
Okay,
Then there's the thing about the
Copper
variants.
mask.
Variants.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Those
just
are the
jumped ahead.
Copper mask is actually related to COVID too because
Right.
this is something that we kind of talked about before.
Way back when, at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think we had a story about the fact that when they were looking at surfaces that were
Surface,
antiviral, they found that a copper surface
Copper
literally
surface.
killed within seconds almost
Yes,
any virus.
real
was in.
quick.
So that was cool. Now we have this little story about the ECAT that this is going to be very
looking
interesting.
intriguing. I want to know more.
The for those of you who visit the Suez Canal,
That is one place that I'd love to go just to see it.
well, I did hear that there's always good news, bad news.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Evergreen company and their ship, the Ever Given, which has completely blocked like a cork the Suez Canal. It has caused lots and lots of tourist traffic around the Cape of Good Hope. So
Tourist traffic, yes.
Everybody's had to go.
Everybody wants to see
I thought spring break in South Africa. Cool story on Mars water.
Yes.
I was looking at this next series. Ever given Mars water nanowire jellyfish squid lemurs?
Ooh, sounds like a
All that
buffet.
stuff. And then we have, indoor dining. Okay, we're finally going to get to the Neanderthal, and I did find a new chart that I think is going to be pretty important
Okay,
to us.
so and this is called the variant chart.
The variant chart.
That's got some
in
scary
fact,
undertones.
Since what I'd like to do is maybe we're going to talk about variants later.
Okay.
Just for the fun of it, I want to try to get a lot of the COVID stuff out of the way,
Okay.
and I'm going to apologize for the fact that I'm going to say maybe touch briefly on these stories. People are
Okay.
going to go, you're just skimming right over
No,
the
no,
top,
but-
so you can talk about the jellyfish squid
you
lemurs.
could, well, yeah.
Well, yeah,
But you can always go back
Yeah.
and you can.
Do a better
check
job
into
than
this.
we could, right? Yeah, you could analyze
Is
it for
that
yourself.
possible?
Well, yeah.
Of course, that's possible.
Let's look at the variant
Okay,
chart.
let's go to the variant chart, all the way on the far right-hand side
And
of your
notice
screen.
where these things are coming from now, Robert. They're not coming from, some unaccountable place. It's from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC.
Oh, good.
And so it has all this
So
stuff.
wait. No. You're not saying that the variants are coming from there.
No, this data is coming.
The chart is coming from there. Okay,
And I'm
okay,
going to
good.
say that when we're talking about the data, we do appreciate things that you can easily grasp, and some of this takes a few more minutes to grasp. But this information. I'm thinking, wow, all this information was being collected, and then nobody wanted to publish it during the. I wonder who is it? The predecessor that we're talking
Yes,
about.
the predecessor.
The predecessor coming to a theater near you. So anyway, I'll just scroll down a little bit, and you will see where it says SARS-CoV-2 variants. And this is
Okay.
like
Oh.
presently circulating in the
Bar
United
graphs.
States.
I like bar graphs.
Well, and the thing about the bar graphs that surprised me, because I'm thinking, wow, how many bars? And then look, they're basically
so
showing the entire mix, right?
right. So this is a bar graph in time. The first bar graph to the left is January 2nd, 2021.
And that's not too far. That's not too far.
Not
in
too
the
far
past.
back in the past. Then it's January 16th,
Every
and
2
January
weeks.
30th.
Yeah.
Then looks like February 13th, February 27th,
And the latest one-
March 13th.
They have some asterisks
And-
because it's not all in
Yes.
yet.
And the B1 is staying about the same, and then it starts getting less and less. But the B12, look, that's the big one. That's getting less and less. The other is getting less and less.
Well, now the thing that you have to realize that when I thought other, I said, "Oh, which is it? One other?" No, this is like
no, it's
all
like
of the
other
others.
others.
But here's the important.
Is
I know
the
that you're
B117
you're like
is
you like
growing.
beige, right?
Yes.
That's a nice color for your garage or
the,
whatever.
The B117 back in January 2nd was almost an indiscernibly thin line.
Look
and then
at
it
it.
got a little thicker 2 weeks later, and then about 2 millimeters, and then almost
So what would
a
you say
centimeter.
from this, Robert?
I think it's exponential growth is what it looks like.
Wow.
I would say that the B117 is exponential growth. What's really interesting is it's a larger exponential growth than the B1429, whatever that is, and then we're getting the B1526, which is the purple lavender, which didn't even seem to have an existence when this chart first started. So, there's some interesting things occurring. And as you've probably been hearing on the news, and as we've been seeing on Radio Science
Time for
News,
spring break.
yes, time for spring break. No, that's not what we're saying.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second too. So
what you need to consider is that the vaccine was designed for the B12, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's perfectly fine because that's still the majority big one.
Yeah.
But after about February 27th, it turns out that when you take everything else and combine it, it's more than the B12.
Well, I actually heard somebody say that
That's really scary.
in a very short period of time. I wish I could have found the article, but they're saying that it'll at some point in the very near future
The B12
will
will
be
go
like
away.
90. Well, the one that's the B11, the UK variant, the one that's the most. They're saying it's going to be like 90% of the cases.
Yeah. Yes.
So
And this is why, folks, you need to take your vaccine as quickly as you possibly can.
and continue to wear your mask.
Because the more people that
Right.
cannot spread this are places that these variants will not spawn.
Yeah.
Okay, this is why we need to do this, and this is why we also need to get. And I hate to say this, shots in the arm. I'd rather have
That's what we have going on now.
a micro needle array. But the shots in the arms has to not just be for the rich countries; it has to be for everybody
the
because
world, yeah.
this is going on everywhere on the planet. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to turn around and go, "Oh, good, we got the vaccine for the B12," and then you go, "But there is no B12." It's gone.
Just because there's so much stuff here, let me call if you look over to the little breakdown, all the different colors. First of all, they're going, well, gee, how many variants? Well, we got the B12, the 117, 1.49, those are the common lineages. And there's the ones that are, when they say viruses of interest or
14
concern.
plus the other.
There's the P2, the B1.
Wow.
Look at all. And so the point is, a lot of people are doing good science and very definitive stuff. Now scroll down, because I know, Robert, we were thinking, wow, man, spring break, we could go look. What are some of these states that are completely open now?
Let's see.
Proportions of SARS. These are the variants of concern by state. So, oh wow, if you go to, go back. Look at the. Oh man, something jumped out of my chart. Let me have to go back. I must have touched something.
Something jumped out of your chart. That's scary.
Oh,
I don't like it when things jump out of my chart.
Okay, well, so for example, I'm thinking Florida. Look at this. Mm-hmm. I mean, Arizona only has 1.2 of the B117, but Florida, that's where I was thinking spring break would be the great place.
13.2%.
Wow. But then look at Arizona, the B1.427, B1429, it's 25.7%, but it hasn't been. Now, when I see these numbers, this doesn't make me feel that there's a good chance that the testing hasn't, been sufficient to make all these numbers really accurate. But there certainly are trends here. What does it look like in West Virginia? Oh, we've already been on there.
I don't see West Virginia. We didn't make the cut.
Well, we didn't make the cut. That's okay. All right.
Oh, well.
So the chart, there's a lot of good stuff here. Continue to take a look at good data. While we've looked at the variant chart, why don't we go back in our quick look at the COVID topics? And let's scroll over to we're on the radiosciencenews.org page, and we're gonna skip over to variants.
Okay,
because,
let's go to variants.
And maybe put some of this in context. And this is a thing that's basically showing which, here's what it says U.S. COVID-19 cases caused by variants. And these are the new ones that we're sure of. So as you can see, the one that's really got people concerned is the B117.
Yeah.
And the B13.51. What I found interesting is, according to this, the variant, there's 8,000 some cases, number of jurisdictions reporting. When I scroll down, because I was thinking, so, where would the last place you'd want to go for, Robert, for spring break?
Probably
if you're looking,
Florida or Michigan.
Oh, Michigan is it's high. Yeah. When you float your pointer over any of these things, Michigan has got 986 of the 117, 0 of the P1. And again, this is what they've been able to determine.
So far.
And then you go to Florida, and it's like over
1,042
it's got them all.
of the B117.
Oh, but you have a smorgasbord of variants.
Smorgasbord
That's right.
of variants.
Oh, boy. Okay. So this has a bunch of really good information.
Look, it says over here you've got American Samoa territory, Guam territory, Marshall Islands.
There are people collecting real
in
data.
American Samoa. Which I lived there for quite some time. The B117 0, the P1 0. The B1351 0. You know why? They shut that place down.
Yeah, that's true.
They shut that down before anything happened.
It's also
bad things have occurred there.
Micronesia, the whole of Micronesia is basically that. Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Northern Marianas.
Everybody's down to 0.
Palau. And what's interesting, you and I have both been to these places.
Yeah. So is
even Guam is 0.
Yeah. Is that because they've not done any testing, or is that because there just aren't any?
I don't know.
It's
Okay.
11:15.
Thank you, Zarvox. Appreciate
Zarbucks
it.
doesn't even know. Now, okay, the rest of this page is really good information on the variants. The one thing that you have to understand is there are many variants. By letting this go, so
We can't let this go on any longer, folks.
by not stopping it early, the variants are one of the freaky things. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? Since I know I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit here,
That's okay.
but actually, I got the one story. I eliminated a story that had to do with very, very technical. If anybody studies archaeology, they found out that you can determine a lot about how people migrated by looking at the way language changed.
Yes.
It's almost kind of like mutation in the
Yeah.
language. And it's been very accurate. Well, they can do something similar to that on a molecular level with the viruses.
Yes.
And there was a cool story. Long story short, it was so deep in the weeds, I decided we could never cover this well in an hour. But they basically were pointing out that they've been able to determine pretty much when the COVID-19 showed up and the thing is, you're looking at what you start to realize is, oh my gosh, there are so many when they talk about noetic, the things that come from zootic or zootic, however people pronounce it, diseases. They literally think that they pop up all the time,
They do.
and they typically self-extinguish in like 7 to 9. They just disappear because they typically aren't highly transmissible.
Right.
Now, the COVID-19 ended up being one that
Was very highly
it
transmissible.
was highly transmissible, but it wasn't visible because people just didn't start falling over dead.
Right.
So it was a cool story on that. But they went back and they determined a lot of interesting stuff about that.
Okay.
But
So when do they believe that it began?
they think that from their analysis that sometime in October it may have shown up.
October of
2019.
Okay.
But that the first case didn't really emerge until December, as a case.
right.
So it is interesting because part of what they're showing is that it kind of floated around and was unknown and
That
persisted
makes
for a
sense.
long time.
Sure.
Again, it kind of pointed out that they pretty much think it came from some sort of a transmission from animal to human.
Makes
and then
sense.
drifted around. Anyway, let's go back and jump into what I think is one of the best stories of this particular time. This guy named Dr. Rick
Dr. Bright on the far left.
Yeah, it says here. Well, I don't know if he's on the. No, I know.
Well,
Well,
on the far
and here's the
left
story.
of the screen.
Pandemic whistleblower. We need a non-political way to track viruses. Rick Bright, who exposed former U.S. President Donald Trump's political meddling, now he's spearheading a privately funded initiative to rapidly contain coronavirus variants and outbreaks of other pathogens. So this is a very cool story. When you read through it, there's a funny picture of him. There's other stories that may be a little more political. The part that I'm looking at as important is here's a good man in a good organization, and they're going to be doing good things. He's now with the Rockefeller Foundation.
Good.
And it says Rick Bright put his career on the line last year when he blew the whistle on how stuff was being handled. He was then the director of the U.S. Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA, responsible for countermeasures against pandemics, bioterrorism, and other health emergencies. And he was abruptly removed from the agency. Now,
I'm sure that there were good reasons for that.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a big book here somewhere, and I'm not sure whether anybody will ever write it. But they claim that it was his vocal opposition to hydroxychloroquine that got him removed, and I don't really think that's the case.
I don't think so.
Anyway, last week, the Rockefeller Foundation announced he would become the senior vice president of the pandemic prevention activities.
Wow.
And his first thing to do was, this is what everybody said, the first thing he should have done, in January of 2020, testing. And so what they're doing is they're using really, really high-level genomic sequencing and testing to track coronavirus SARS in the United States and to communicate results quickly enough to shape the country's response.
Well, here's a thought.
So yeah, and so
But wait. I was under the mistaken concept that back in March of 2000 that all of this was supposed to be going on.
Yeah, well, it should have been.
Should have been. Okay.
So anyway, the thing that is really important is He said, "We never want to be in this position again."
No,
and I know
we do not. I do not.
this was what was said back when they dealt with Ebola and other stuff, and when he was put in position before being removed. He said, "I mapped out all the various major vulnerabilities in a response, from the infection to the last mile of vaccine administration." So I know he's looking at some things that we're interested in, Robert.
Yes.
Like the fact that everybody's panicked because we're not going to be able to vaccinate the world with needles right now.
No, we can't do it. There aren't enough.
And hopefully he's looking at some of that stuff, and I believe he is. And the gap he kept coming back to is the most impactful for where we are now, was to have a resilient early warning system. Testing.
Testing. The
group
three most
that-
important things.
The group that was eliminated that had been put in place to do exactly what he's talking about. Now, the rest of it there's a bunch of good stuff to read. And, as I said, I think it's really important to read through this, but you are so smart out there. We know that you can do it yourself.
You can read on your own.
You can do it. Now,
You can do it.
just a quick touch on this thing with Dr. Redfield.
Okay.
Ex-CDC head claims without evidence, and he's going to be on this the CNN thing, that COVID-19 began in a China lab.
Oh, yeah. This guy.
Okay, so this is a confluence of two things. For me, this is a story that is kind of like a variant of The Big Lie, and it's also, again, it's once again, we're beating up on somehow that China was, but the thing that's good in this story is that Dr. Fauci replies to Dr. Redfield's belief, because Dr. Redfield just keeps saying, well, this is just an opinion.
Oh, whenever somebody says that, I say, okay, it's an opinion, but what are the facts?
Well, and
because there's
exactly.
Yeah, because what you want is, you don't want someone's opinion, you want the facts. What are the facts? Because the facts are what we need to act on. The opinions are what you need to ignore.
Well, and the other thing, that this is again perpetuating something that's not founded.
Right.
If I was to guess, this virus started transmitting somewhere in September, October.
If I were to guess, but that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to find the facts.
Well, he doesn't even. Then he says, "That's my feelings."
That's my feeling.
And
it's
only
my
opinion. I'm allowed to have opinions now.
Well, sure, you can have them, but you can't say, I'm going to take the reality and I'm going to toss that out and I'm going to put my opinion in to replace it. Opinion is perfectly fine. Everyone should have their opinion. But that doesn't mean that the opinion needs to take the place of facts.
Well, and certainly shouldn't be the sole thing that moves policy.
No. It should be facts. Facts should move
anyway, so
the direction that.
And the reason why this is kind of important is that this next topic that says COVID team. This is just a link talking about how. Again, here he is saying, I might even be the same picture because it's from CNN. This is autopsy of a pandemic. 6 doctors at the center of the U.S. COVID-19 response. Now, the good news would be that Sanjay Gupta he'll hold them accountable, and this probably will be interesting. But at the same time, I'm thinking, these are the guys who did such a lousy job to a certain extent, and probably a lot of them are trying to, say, well, I was there, but we're going to find out more about maybe what they had to fight against.
Yeah, and this is just for you
to look at.
So it says the COVID war, the pandemic doctors speak out, which airs at 9 p.m. Sunday, March 28th on CNN. That's tomorrow night. I'm sure that it will be played again, and I'm sure that if for some reason that you should miss it, I'm sure that you could that you could play it again. I'm sure it's going to be online somewhere.
And I'm like I said, the only comment I have is that it's interesting to me that the first thing that comes out of the fact that this is going to be on is they pull out the one thing that has probably been, let's just face it, in the view of recent Asian issues of violence against an Asian population,
right,
to continue to even mention that particular thing
right. Over and over again. When it's unfounded, it's not true.
In fact,
it is an opinion.
Dr. Fauci has a pushback on it, and the World Health Organization has basically come down on the side of it being, as though having transmitted from even though it's not clear where, their idea that it escaped from a lab is like highly unlikely.
Right.
So most of the facts out there are completely at odds with this thing. And so it's a shame that it becomes the message. All right, we're going to jump over to copper mask.
Copper masks.
We talked about a story where surfaces that were like copper, like in a laboratory or something, actually were the most efficacious at preventing viral spread and stuff. Viruses landing on a surface that was copper actually disappeared. And so it's interesting that somebody from the American Chemical Society is talking about copper foam. I'm thinking, wow, copper foam.
Okay, I just checked back and I found, let's see.
It's way back. We looked at it a long time ago.
March 2020, we
Oh,
had
wow.
something called copper. And I am going to click on that.
See if
March
that's the one.
14th, 2020. And this was the Science News, using copper to prevent the spread of respiratory viruses. And this was from
Wow.
November 10th, 2015.
Wow.
So it said new research from the University of Southampton has found that copper can effectively help to prevent the spread of respiratory viruses, which are linked to severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS.
Wow, so that
MERS
was-
and SARS. So back on November 10th, 2015 was an article that talked about this, and we reported it on March 14th. 2020. Now back to
Back to today.
Back to
6
today.
years. It was literally 6 years later.
Okay.
We're in March of 2020.
Isn't this interesting?
Now, the neat thing about it, and I love it because it's a nanotechnology story.
Yes.
And it goes through a long process of what they did. It says they took copper nanowires and they all jump, and then they made it into basically they ended up making it into a metal foam. So you think of
Very cool.
an open cell foam, which means that
Open cell.
stuff can travel through it. But check this out. It says particles smaller than 0.3 is that micrometer?
Microns
Yeah, microns can stay airborne. So now,
for hours.
according to this thing, the neat thing about trying to create something with small enough pores to do that can be a problem. But it says that the team found metal foams had the filtration efficiency for particles within 0.1 to 0.16 microns,
Okay.
which is because it says the most effective material was that particular pore size, and it was in a 2.5 millimeter thick version.
Wow, that's really thin.
It's
That's
thin and
1/10 of an inch.
And it basically said that this would trap, because of the large surface area and the particle size, it would trap 97% of anything from 0.1 to 0.4. And now,
Aerosolized salt particles.
yeah, and then you can still breathe through it. But here's the nice thing, Robert. This can be used over and over again because it can be clean. It can be heat treated.
So your mask is an infinite mask.
Right. It says recyclable. And
Oh,
here's the
wow.
part that I thought, well, this is going to cost some bucks. Well, the researchers estimate materials would be about $2 per mask at present.
Whoa.
So
wait.
this needs to be out here.
So you need to buy one mask one time for $2, and it will trap 97% of 0.1 to 0.4 microns.
Yeah, and it doesn't even address the fact that for
And
whatever
it can be
interest-
cleaned.
it can be cleaned, and they're mostly just talking about filtration capacity. They haven't even addressed the
They
fact
haven't even addressed